Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Property Experts podcast. We are going to be doing something very different this week because yesterday we celebrated our special 6th birthday. So XP Property has been in business officially for 6 years now. So we thought we'd do something slightly different. And we've gathered questions from ourselves and our team about the last 6 years. And I'm going to be talking you through all of those 13 questions. And then Jack and I are going to be holding up. We haven't seen each other's answers to these. We're going to be holding up our answers and then having a 3 or 4 minute conversation about each one. And hopefully you can learn a lot about our business, where we've come from, what to do well, what to do badly, what you should avoid doing badly, and hopefully take a lot of tips away from this. So we're going to be answering these questions. What would we say are the 3 biggest attributes needed to be a good property developer? Why do you think most businesses fail by this point, i.e. 50% of businesses fail after 5 years, which is a huge stat? What's been our biggest success? What's our biggest failure? What's the biggest lesson we've learned? What would we do differently? What's our favorite project? What's been the biggest frustration in these 6 years? How is it going 6 years on compared to where you thought you'd be right now? What was our first deal together? What's our favorite thing about business? How are you different six years down the line, and how did you meet to just top it off? So I'm going to change screen.
Exciting
question, which is, what would we say are the biggest 3 attributes needed to be a good property developer? And we're both going to hold them up at the same time, I think, and see where we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Resilience. Nice. So I've got resilience, creativity, and persuasiveness. You've got passion,
resilience, and solution providing.
Nice. I love that resilience is on there for both of us, because I think that is just so important. It's a shit show and it's bloody hard work, so you need it.
Completely agree. In actual fact, when I interviewed at my old job in sales, like resilience was a word battered around because there's so many live leads, and you have to be willing to pick yourself up when something doesn't go your way. But I actually think that in business, you're going to get more failures than successes. That's just the nature of it. Every day there's 10 things that go wrong against one thing that goes right, and you've just got to learn to live to deal with that, I suppose.
Yeah, I actually heard a quote from Elon Musk's ex-wife on something, and he said, basically, to be an entrepreneur, to be a just finding it here now, to be a business owner, entrepreneur, property, whatever, you need resilience, and you get so good at being. To be a good entrepreneur, you need to get so good at being resilient that it's above the threshold of what most people can endure, and those that are successful just kind of get on with it. Was the sort of, I'm bastardizing that completely because I can't find it now online, but you have to be resilient in business. You have to be resilient in property. I feel like
Elon Musk's wife.
I feel like our stress levels are more than what most people could deal with. Yeah, let me try and find it. What were the other 2 on yours? You talk about those 2 and I'll find this.
Passion is the first one. So I mean, I always bang on about work ethic, but the issue with work ethic is if you lose interest in something, it's very easy to actually lose work ethic within that capacity too. So what I mean by that is, at school there was some subjects where I was, absolutely infatuated by learning more, and there was other subjects where I was so dull bored that you wouldn't even be able to force feed the information into my brain. So yeah, passion, I think, is what is left once everything else is, when you're overly stressed, when your resilience is burnt out, when your work ethic's burnt out, passion is the only thing that keeps you going, and it's way more powerful than any of those other 3 metrics that I mentioned. I am a big believer in work ethic. I think that natural ability is what's the phrase? Natural ability is always overworked by work ethic. I'm a massive believer of that. Mm-hmm. It's like the marathon runners out there in the world. Some of them are genetically maybe not the best, but because their work ethic is up there. It's like Michael Jordan, who was like one of the shortest champions in basketball, but his work ethic was unreal, and it trumped everything else. Passion. We've obviously talked about resilience, and then the last one is solution providing, which
problem solving, basically. Yeah, that was actually gonna be my third one, and then I changed it for persuasiveness. I think that influencing, making friends and influencing people, that type of vibe. I think you have to be able. A leader does that. They're persuasive in bringing people along for the vision. Like from your perspective, from a sales and negotiation perspective, you have to be persuasive in your arguments to get good deals over the line and things like that. So I think persuasiveness is key. And then my third one was creativity. I think we're both quite creative and thinking creatively about deals, thinking creatively about solutions on site in terms of what can be done. And I guess from an architectural background, that kind of that helps the creativity. But resilience, creativity, and persuasiveness. And then I found the Elon Musk quote from his wife. So Elon Musk has learned to handle a level of stress that would break most people. For Elon, it's not about avoiding stress, not trying to reduce it, just being able to handle more. And I feel like, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, that's what you have to do. Yeah. I think, when we talk about what we get up to, like to our wives and other people, you can see in their faces, like, I speak to my mother-in-law when I talk about work. She's like, how do you do it all? I don't understand. Like that. Why would you want to go through all of that? I'm like, well, I think it's just ingrained in who I am and what I do, really.
Yeah, completely agree. I think it's actually a Henry Rollins quote, which is basically do what others won't to get what others can't have, which is another great quote. But we did our team review last week, and I asked two of the new people, Amy and Trevor, what their feedback was. And Amy was like, I don't know how you do it. You must be permanently thinking. And I was like, yeah, that's one part of it. There's obviously other things that you have to think about, like the stress levels. And, weirdly, I'm always able to sleep, which is
I'm the same. Yeah, actually, until recently, because Lucas has started coming in through the night, annoyingly, and 5 o'clock in the morning.
Business related.
Yeah, no, I don't really ever have any issues with that. Although, there's millions of pounds up for grabs. There's, personal guarantees. We've got between us, 30 people in the various teams, to a degree, relying on our performance because we are driving things forward generally, and effectively the one that pays the payroll at the end of the month, and we have to make sure that that's there. And there is a lot of pressure that you feel, but it's part of the job as far as I see it.
Yeah,
cool, nice. And I forgot to set the timer, but we'll do sort of 3 to 4 minute things and move on to the next question. So why do you think 50% of businesses fail after 5 years? After 3?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Oh, you've got a few options. I've just said caught in Death Valley, and I'll explain what I mean by that. You've got, what's that?
Yeah, I've got owner and business plan and financials are not in place. So the owner is the biggest issue. Cash flow is the second biggest issue. And I've got ingestion against starvation. So businesses tend to fail not from producing enough sales, but from struggling to survive to get those sales cash flowed and delivered.
They choke themselves. Yeah, nice. I think I almost put a couple of those down actually that you've got, but I thought, given we're SME developers, and I see this happen a lot to people where they try to grow through the early stages and fail because you have to, and we talk about this all the time, you have to get to a critical mass with a lot of businesses. Like you can either be a 1 or 2 person band and actually make really good money doing that, but you're giving yourself a profitable job effectively. As soon as you start bringing in management, growing a team, and under, let's say, 10 people, you're caught in what's called kind of Death Valley, where your overheads are so high, you have to bring in a certain amount of revenue to sustain and be a profitable business. And it's the hockey stick effect for like startups. So the hockey stick effect kind of drops down, and they don't make any profit until year, 4 or 5, whenever they make it, and then it's kind of an exponential curve up. That drop at the bottom of the hockey stick is called sort of Death Valley, and it's really hard to kind of get out of. I think that's probably why a lot of businesses go under early, in the early stages.
Yeah. So mine were the owner. So I've probably been to 6 talks, I would say half a dozen talks where big business failures and the owner of the big business failures is sat in front of us. And I think some of the sort of underlying reasons is they didn't have a business plan in place, so to speak. They were just rolling on to the next deal, not analysing. Ben said critical mass. Is it covering their costs? Is it a waste of their time? You don't see, Coca-Cola instructing a marketing company that 2 people is the wrong size fit for their business. And the financial management and planning, believe it or not, out of the people that we've sat in front of that have gone bust, 3 out of the 6, and probably the other 3, just because we didn't discuss it, we're probably living on 10 to 20 grand a month personal expenditure. And I think that you can't spend that way if you're growing a business and scaling a business. Ben and I have paid ourselves extremely modestly for the first 6 years. I think we've up until now, our average pay per year is probably like less than 10 grand. And that's just the nature of being a business owner. Business comes first, and staffs come first, and mortgages come first, and then everything else comes to you thereafter. So you've got to be patient with that. And actually, Roger Hamilton always says the biggest business bottleneck is yourself. If you look at massive corporates, or if you look at the Gymshark example, where obviously the owner of Gymshark had to step down from a CEO role because he wasn't qualified for it. He was a 23-year-old kid, and he was actually not letting the business grow as quickly as it could, and then he hired someone else in that had been used to running a monopoly infrastructure business that was worldwide, and it transformed the business. Second point is cash flow. There's 3 things that you look at in any business, and that is profit, cash flow, and risk. Obviously, in development, risk is more prevalent than if you had a service-based business or even a product-based business. But what always happens is a really profitable business can fail on cash flow. And that kind of leads into the next point, that starvation isn't, when people start in business, they think, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to get customers. I don't know if people are going to like this and come in here and buy my cakes from my coffee shop. That is normally not the problem. The problem is actually indigestion, where the business is struggling to facilitate other areas of the business. So that might be operational costs, staffing. It might be balancing your sales versus operations costs. So yeah, I've put indigestion against starvation. I love that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I wanted to touch on the business model thing, because that was going to be my top line before I changed it. But when I look at my some other business, like my businesses, my wife's company, company she works for, it's not her company, but it's a recruitment company, which from a business model perspective is amazing. Their margins are ridiculous. But when I hear about some of the ways in which the owners manage the finances of the business and the structures and systems they got in place, or lack of systems and structures and financial management, I'm like, if you were in any other business, you would fail miserably. So you can have the best, having a good business model is almost more important than the financial management. You can actually have a really good business model, still have crap financial management, because the model is there. It can work strongly. If you combine the two, then you've got a supercharged business model that works really well. But yeah, good one. Cool. I forgot to time it again, but I'm getting on it now.
We can just stamp the recording time.
Yeah. Cool. Point number 3. What's been our biggest success? Start the clock and go. And I've gone project here.
All right. Nice.
Yeah.
I've gone,
have you gone surviving. Yeah. Nice.
And the team.
Nice. Good. I wonder which way to go with that. Success. I've gone a specific project, which was St Helens Mill, and that was a project that won Property Deal of the Year at 2 Property Investor awards in 2022, and it's a stonking deal, one that we found during COVID. Have we done a deep dive on that one?
No, we haven't.
Maybe we should. We probably should, actually. But we bought it, basic figures, bought it for £1.5 million. We spent no more than 450 grand on it. We had income coming in throughout of it, because it's a block of 14 flats that we asset managed, kind of moving people out, refurbishing their asset, moving back in with a higher rent roll. So actually we were able to pay a lot of the development finance and the holding costs with the income that we had coming in. So we were all in for around about £2.1 million. We had it revalued between 3.2 and 3.4 million pounds a couple of months ago. So refinanced, got most of our money back out. We've got an asset there, right, making 190 grandish gross rental. So absolute banger. And yeah, that's my biggest success.
Yeah, so mine are surviving and the team. I think that when push comes to shove and difficult times present themselves, we talked about being resilient and resourceful and solution providing. And it's, it's always having that positive outlook. We've worked with we've been fortunate enough to work with various partners, and in one certain business, I sometimes struggle to bring the positivity back into it and think that we have another option here, and it's to keep going and keep driving and keep being hopeful. And I think that's one thing that we were in the Ground Up podcast, we were chatting, and apparently the top 1% of podcasts make it because they go past 21 episodes. And if you actually think about it, if your competitors are not willing to do more than 21 episodes, of course they're not going to make it. So it's all about understanding the graph that needs to go in and sticking to it and driving on. And then second point was the team. So it's amazing when you build a grade A team, how you can collaborate, they can bring new ideas, they can do certain things better than you, and allowing them to do that and giving them the autonomy to help your business grow and being on the same page, is really refreshing. I think I'd struggle if it was just we were in an operational business that didn't require a lot of in-house team. I think we've built a good culture, and the team part of building that culture too. It's got its own internal culture, and I've enjoyed that being part of one of our successes, regardless of the financials and deals and developments and failures and awards and all of that.
Nice. I think your first one, it goes back to that first question about the 3 attributes that make a good developer. It's resilience. That says it all. Surviving, the ability to. One of my top 3 was going to be resourcefulness. Because sometimes you have to dig deep, find solutions, reach out to your network, do things that are very, very difficult. And we've done a lot of that over the last 6 years. So yeah, I think that's a great one. Good. That was good timing. So next one, we've talked about our biggest success. Let's see what our biggest failure is. And again, I think you'll probably go more generic. I've actually gone a project. What's that? Social save.
Social sale.
Social sale. Oh, I see. Yeah. Fair. Go on. You go first. Explain a bit about that.
So, for those of you that don't know, we've been building a social portfolio for the last 3.5 years, and it's been taxing, tiring, and stressful for a number of market reasons. To be fair, everything that we can control has gone pretty well, whereas everything that we haven't been in control of has gone pretty badly. But fundamentally, we had a sale agreed about, I think it was early 2022, leading into 2023 at a really good value. We were literally weeks off transacting on the first tranche, and I believe if that one thing did happen, that would have probably changed the landscape of mine and Ben's business the most. So it's not really a failure that we can look back on and say, what have we learned? Because there was very little that we could have done to save that, other than maybe try and speed it up and get it done in a better market, because we fell into interest rates went crazy, home REIT, which sort of ruined the market to some degree, and commercial rates moved away, and Liz Truss caused a bit of upset. So I suppose speed is the key, and I've always known in sales, time kills deals, and that is always true. But the fundamentals is, I feel that that's the biggest one thing that happened that has put us in, we're 2 years down the line now, and we're still struggling to sort of recover from that painful change. So that was just one big one.
I mean, do you think there's like a bigger picture around that, or like bigger lessons to learn in terms of, did we look at the risks associated with it when we first got into that business? Was the business model right? And I think we could be quite hard on ourselves from that perspective.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's very market driven.
I'll park that until we come on to what would we do differently. So 2 questions down, because I sort of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, fair. Good. I mean, I just went Gainsborough Green because it's the only project, as far as I'm concerned, that we've not made much money on, or it's the sort of one where it's the most dramatic change from our budget versus actuals. And it goes on to some of the further questions about what would we do differently and things like that, which is probably similar to yours. But it was a very small project at the time. It took us about 2 years, and we made about 30 grand, which just doesn't turn the needle for what we need. And yes, there were external factors like build costs escalating significantly during the pandemic. But yeah, I just see that as one of our biggest failures. Cool. Next question. What's the biggest lesson we've learned? I'll start the clock and let's go. Cash flow first, bigger deals. Nice. I've just put team. That I've just learned over the last 6 years and 7 years with Aura that, like you said earlier, the team is just, you've said that was one of your biggest successes. I've said that's one of the biggest things that I've learned through the process, how much there is a reliant on having an amazing team behind you. And to the contrary, having somebody in the team that isn't performing or causing friction is 5 times as bad as the good people are good, if that makes sense. Like just one bad egg can just destroy everything. So hire slow, fire fast. I think that's another one of James Sinclair's comments or quotes. But my biggest lesson has been build a team of A players. Don't accept anything less, because they're out there. We've proved it numerous times. So yeah.
Cool. So mine was cash flow first, and then bigger deals. Cash flow is I feel like we didn't know what we deserved when we should have had it at the beginning of business. It amazes me, the first joint venture deal we did, we didn't take any we haven't actually taken any fees till this day, 6 years down the line, where we've put a lot of resource, work, time, expertise, experience, introductions, even training with that JV partner. We've put so much into it. What we've given to that project is probably completely outweighed their margin that they've made in the deal. And we didn't think about the cash flow first. And it's that trading entity that is building new projects for these investors to go again. So it is really important to take care of the core business. So cash flow first.
What you're just jumping in there, because what you're talking about there is, we've only recently started looking at taking acquisition fees on purchase. Mm-hmm. And we've recently started taking development management fees, effectively, like all the big joint venture partners with housing associations and big developers. They all have a DM fee in there, which is 3 to 5% of build cost, for example, to keep the lights on. And to date, as XP Property, we haven't really been doing that, and that has a huge impact on cash flow. So everyone that we mentor and have one-to-one consultancy with now, we're always pushing for them to be doing that. We are the ones that often find these deals. If an agent brought it to us, we'd pay them 2%. So why wouldn't we pay XP Property 2%? Who's found the deal, been resourceful, and built those networks?
And also that 2% is actually paying for the 600 deals that we didn't secure and we didn't get, and we did waste a load of time driving there, reviewing the site, doing the DD, doing an initial desktop appraisal and things like that. Anyway. And then next, bigger deals. Obviously, you and I are quite fortunate that we've come from a construction background. So I feel that our confidence in construction should have been stronger from the outset, and we should have gone for bigger deals. But probably the business side, where we were learning how to grow, cash flow, model, hire, all of the elements in business, really, sales, operations, finance, and team. That was probably holding us back from doing the bigger deals, whereas the bigger deals are actually less risky because the business comes at a cost, and the developments we were doing, like the Gainsborough Greens of the world, which is too small. So we would have been better off leaning on our construction nous and doing slightly bigger stuff from the outset. Minimum 2 mil from day one would have been great. Maybe we would have struggled with some funding options because we built a track record, but that's retrospectively how I feel about it. And I would say that if anyone hasn't got construction experience, it might not be a good idea to start outside your comfort zone. Start with what you're capable with, which for us is what we're doing now. So bring that forward and do that sooner.
Yeah, nice. What would we do differently? I mean, a bit of a spoiler alert with your answer to the last one. What's that? Social organic growth rather than explosive growth. Yeah.
Bigger deals sooner, which is exactly the same answer.
Yeah.
And then finance in shape sooner.
Yeah, I mean, it's you touched on it just a minute ago, and my worst project was the Gainsborough Green, where we're making 30 grand and spending 2 years doing so, and that's that actually might be like if it was just me and it was more like a lifestyle type project, and I'm doing maybe 2 or 3 of those a year, that might be okay for a lot of people. That was actually the first type of project that I did, where it was an end terrace property, got planning approval for a 2-bed on the side. It was a really, really profitable venture when I did it sort of on my own. But when you've got a team, you've got mouths to feed. You have to look at the bigger picture. And like Jack says, we were very naive at the start, and this is what a lot of new property developers do. They will look at a project by project basis. So they'll see that this project, it makes 20% on GDV. Yes, this one makes 20% on GDV. Yes, and all of those projects may be doing really well. But if you've got a team as your like holding company of 4 people with overheads, with mouths to feed, with lights, with salaries, with cars, etc., all of that profit needs to come back into the trading vehicle. And if the other SPVs aren't big enough to feed that machine, you're just going a road to nowhere. And that's what we were doing. And I think we've learned that. We've looked at a baseline of what we need to be making on every project nowadays, and we set our sights on projects that exceed that. And I just don't think we did that soon enough. Look at the business side of stuff as opposed to just a project by project basis, which is it's a mistake that a lot of people make.
Yeah, cool. So I won't do the middle one because we've done that now. So social organic growth and then finance and shape. So social organic growth is we went in very strong and delivered 14 assets over 150 beds or something along that, studios, something along those lines.
This is social housing, right? For those that...
Yeah, so our social portfolio. But I now look at, if we just did 3 projects and we had 50 beds, it would be much more of a surmountable issue for us to swallow through the issues that we have incurred in that portfolio. So rather than trying to find 4.5 million, we might be trying to find 1 million, for an example.
Yeah.
And so take things in your stride, grow organically. The shiny penny can get even worse when you get confident and bigger, because the penny is now a dessert spoon, and it's not sorry, I'm referencing spoons and not pennies. Yeah, it's now a £50 note and not a penny anymore. It's serious stuff. And as our non-exec says, that when you go into a faster growing business, it's like driving a faster car. Problems come at you faster. So definitely acknowledging that. And any, I've learned since then that any sort of proof of concept should be, how can you pre-qualify that market? What's the cheapest cost you can put in to make sure that it works, and then go in, once you've done a few projects that make it work, then go in. Really, we were really cautious when me and my brother set up our HMO portfolio in so the location we set up originally didn't have a single HMO in that town, so we didn't know if it would work, but we were very cautious. We did one house, it worked, we did another, did it work, we did another, and we grew organically. So organic growth in some business ventures can be good. And then finance and shape, we obviously instructed the UFD guys and the bookkeeping guys probably about 18 months, 2 years ago now. And it's just a game changer for transparency on everything going on underneath the bonnet, and seeing how well the business is running, and seeing, margins, seeing about balance sheets, seeing around how to manage cash flow problems that are coming up in the future, and just get that. I think that should just be like day one. Like, you should have all of that in line the day you set up a business, because it might be difficult swallowing that cost every month and being like, cool, but you have such clarity on finance, is going to enable you to make the better business decisions. So finance in shape sooner.
Nice. Yeah, like that one. Cool. Next question. What's your favorite project? I'm intrigued to know what yours is. 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
Nice. So I've already talked about yours. Go on, you explain why you think that one's the best.
Yeah, St Helens Mill. So as Ben mentioned, refurbishment of 14 let flats. We bought it during COVID when everyone was shitting themselves about the market, but our rent roll covered our mortgage costs, and we just went through and refurbished every single flat one by one. We've generated over £1.2 million worth of equity in one deal in 2 years, with very little work, stress and risk. So it's a low risk deal, high profit, high cash flow. What can't you like? Won 2 awards, and we've kept it a long time. So yeah, super good deal, and on to Tame.
Yeah, Thames for me. I mean, it's prevalent because it's one we're actually actively developing at the moment. The first phase is due for completion in 6 weeks, but it has very similar traits to St Helens Mill as far as I'm concerned, in terms of we have 2 sitting commercial tenants that are basically paying for our dev finance. So we've got income from the site day one. It's phased, so we get to see money out quicker because we've sort of chopped it up into various phases. Phase 1 is 9 units being delivered. Phase 2, I don't know if we mentioned actually last week, but the Class MA for an additional 11 flats has now been approved as of last week. So later this year, we'll be starting works on a further 11 flats. We've managed to get some external works with balconies and terraces and gardens to enhance the value by 350 grand. Actually more than that, because that's 350 grand purely on the first 9 units. So I actually haven't calculated what those external works add to the later phases. And then we're potentially, we're hoping to get an extra 2 houses in the car park as well with a full planning application. So for me, it's kind of been the gift that keeps on giving. You can actually look, or we go deep dive in episode 37 of season 1 on this podcast. So if you want to find out more about Tame and what we're doing there, then do head over and check out that episode. If you go to Homes by Aura YouTube channel as well, there's a couple of videos on there that I go into a bit more detail about the design and the planning process that we've gone through on that project. So yeah, that's why. And from a financial perspective, it's a cracker. I'm really keen to see where it ends up. Obviously, we've got to sell the units first off, and the market obviously is difficult at the moment. So we're going to be launching those next month. So we'll see how it plays out. At the moment, on paper, how it's played out so far has been great. And one of the other reasons actually I wanted to say why this is one of my favorite projects is PD is great, permitted development. And this project has been a real testament of why it is, because we've bought a 1980s building. It's absolutely solid. It's got concrete plank floors, insulation in the walls, insulation in the roof. It really is just a fit out. And we started the project in February. We're launching to the market next month. We're 6 months in and out of that first phase. And you just don't get that with new builds or larger conversions in a Victorian property, for example. It always takes longer. So yeah, it's a great project, and obviously we're looking for more and more like those. Cool. Next question. What's been the biggest frustration? I'd be surprised if we don't have the same answer on
Imagine if we wrote each other.
Yeah, I'll cross that out and try something different, shall I?
Yeah.
I reckon we've probably got the same.
Yeah, I mean, I did 3.
Okay.
Middle is Aparo.
Yeah, nice, Aparo. And I see your top one is planning, which, to be honest, is just a constant frustration. So
yeah, I do want to spend a bit of time talking about the last one, which is working capital.
Yeah,
it still, my mind baffles me, and I talked about this on the Ground Up podcast the other day. If I set up a company like Shiwi, where it's like a urinal thing for a woman, and I went to market with a proof of concept, which is like a prototype, and there was no proven market because it's never been sold before. It's a little plastic thing, and I want 5 million quid to take it through production, R&D, to take it to market, marketing, build a team. I want an office of 100 people because this is going to be a worldwide phenomenon. You'd get money thrown at you with no security, no guarantee of market. But if you run a development company, it's almost impossible to raise working capital externally, even if you have 6 really successful deals that you're working on, and you just need to sort of grow that to get there. So for me, it's just a huge frustration. I actually would love to be in a position one day, Ben, where we actually help aspiring development businesses get off the ground and support their overheads to help drive the SME property development market to be where it needs to be. Because back in the sort of 50s, 60s, and 70s, most of them, almost the majority of the market was SME developers. It's now big corporates, and it's moving away from entrepreneurialism and supporting local businesses. I would always rather use an independent business in every capacity. You wouldn't see me walk into Costa or Starbucks in Henley-on-Thames and get a coffee. I just would never do it. I'd always rather go private. And I just feel that sort of like almost like piggybacking on the American dream, like you can be whatever you want to be and everyone's supporting each other and the economy is always, crazily busy. I love that aspect of the States. And I feel that working capital is a huge frustration for any development business. If you're good, bad, or ugly, it should be a lot more straightforward if you can prove track record. We've fundamentally organically grown our trading entity just by our own sheer sort of hard work and own capital. And it shouldn't be that difficult, especially if you can get asset backing behind it.
Yeah, nice. We've touched on social portfolio, which is the Aparo stuff. But yeah, for me, that's been a massive frustration. It's where we've had to dig deep for, talking about that resilience and resourcefulness and, using your contacts and your skills and knowledge and understanding. And it's been a real ride. And no doubt we've learned so much stuff through that process. I'm still very hopeful that we will come out the other side, prosperous and, looking back at all those lessons learned as really good lessons learned that we've got under our belt. At the moment, it feels like an absolute, like we're pushing a rock up a hill, and I'm sure it will be like that for a while. But I do think we'll get through it because we always do. I think that's the mentality that you have to have, going back to that resilience and resourcefulness. Like whenever we're in a tough jam, we find our way out of it, and that's sort of part of that problem-solving nature of what good developers, good entrepreneurs will do. So, biggest frustration. But I think we'll be okay with it. And then planning, which you mentioned, which there's no need to go deep into that, but it's everyone's kryptonite. The new Labour government are talking about reforming that planning process and bringing in 300 new planning officers. It's gonna help. It's not really going to scratch the surface, but it's going to help a little bit. But a lot more is needed from that front to just make it more streamlined and easier to actually develop. I think the key criteria or figures that I've been looking at recently is that we need to build on average 300 new homes per year to meet the 1.5 million pound target that the Labour government has set. 300,000, sorry. Last year I think only 240,000 new homes were approved at planning stage. So it's a massive bottleneck to actually deliver the housing stock that we need. It's a very, very frustrating process. And I wish everyone listening to this all the best with their local planning.
It's fucking shit show. Another thing just to touch on for the plan, we've already talked about the planning system and what they're, what needs to happen. But what other people don't think about is we've talked about rent caps, rent reforms, how difficult it is to rent at the moment. We've talked about the average first-time buyer now being 37 years old. If you improve the planning system, so more properties were coming onto the market per year, all of that would be easily helped further down the line. So we're, rather than trying to solve rent caps and things like that at the end, solve the problem at the beginning, so there's more real estate coming to the market, sales and lettings, and everything will soften. So I completely agree. Planning is the root of a lot of our housing issues in the UK, and if they don't fucking do it seriously and really like shake it about, we're going to have the same rental problems and first time buyer problems and social housing and homelessness and net migration problems for housing and things like that. So
nice. Good. Okay, so how is it going 6 years on compared to where we thought we would be? This one I thought was an interesting one.
Yeah,
you got that one?
I don't know.
Uh-oh. You're not got it on your list?
I can quickly write it. You share yours.
I'll share mine. So mine is less cash, which we touched on. Cash flow, working capital, and actually kind of like Jack touched on earlier, paying ourselves. I know that when my friends, other friends have business owner, entrepreneur friends, that the instant go-to thought is, oh, you must be doing really well. It looks like you're doing great on social media, and oh, you must be making loads of money. And I can tell you that it's not that easy. It's been 6 years with the development business. I feel like we're only just getting to the point in which Jack and I are being sort of remunerated for all of the hard work, all of that resilience, all of that stress that we've taken on over the last 6 years, because it takes that much time. And I know a lot of developers that have left corporate jobs over the last 3 years and had to go back to 3 days a week or full-time work, because they've realized how lumpy property development is in terms of cash, the length of time it takes to actually build. And yes, we make profit on our projects, but to grow a team and to buy your next project, that profit goes into a lot of that stuff. So you have to get to a certain size, and we talked about it earlier, critical mass, to actually start getting decent amounts of cash out of the business. And I think I actually think 6 or 7 years is probably the turning point for a lot of businesses, whereby they start to actually make decent money. And when I look at Aura, I feel like that's a very similar story, really.
Yeah, I mean, they say you only make money when you stop growing. So
yeah, and we've
if you wanted to
certainly
continue growing in year 6, you might not still make any money until 60. Who knows? I've got mine. I had them written down on hard paper. So I've got 4 things. So the question again is, how is it going 6 years on compared to how we thought it'd be? I've got less pay, more beaten up, tired but motivated.
More beaten up. Yeah, I think that's definite. I think, I mean, you go on.
Yeah, I mean, less pay, Ben touched on. More beaten up is just you don't. It's that classic old thing that I've got a joke about a blonde, and I'm blonde, so I can say it. What does a blonde do when they've swam halfway across an area and they've got too tired? They swim back, and the principle is they're already halfway there, so that it would have been easier to finish it. But it's that old age thing that you kind of, your naivety or lack of knowledge of what you're getting into does help, because you get in, you go, if I knew it would be this hard, I probably wouldn't have done it in the first place. So that's where I'm coming up, like more beaten up. You get 50% of the way through and you go, geez, this is not easy, but you're already 50% of the way there. So you're more likely to want to finish rather than give up everything that you've thrown into this. So that's what I mean by more beaten up. Tired is just an ongoing slog. There's just problem after problem after problem. What you've got to remember is, that a business, if you leave it, it is likely to, it's almost like herding cats, especially when you're running multiple businesses. If you turn a blind eye for 5 minutes, they all start going in the wrong direction, and you've got problems coming at you left, right, and centre. I mean, a good systemized business might not be, but what we're doing, it definitely is that way. But then
just on that thing, because this is what you're talking about, isn't it? And it's a graph on competence versus confidence. This Dunning-Kruger effect. I don't know if you've seen this before, but when you start off, you have zero confidence because you're the unknown, you don't know, but you've got huge amounts of confidence. Your confidence is sky high, and this is called the peak of Mount Stupid. And then you soon realize, as your competence grows, your confidence dwanes, because you've come across loads of issues, you're having it's a shit show, and you're trying to resolve loads of things you didn't know about, and you're in the valley of despair. And then as you sort of go through that bottom, that trough, and you continue to gain knowledge and competence, and you're on your way then to enlightenment, as they call it here. So your confidence and your confidence and your competence continues to grow, but that initial setting out on something that you don't know, you have huge amounts of confidence, but actually you don't know anything, and you soon realize that.
Yeah, I mean, my next point, which is motivated, kind of ties in with this. Like, what we have realized is we are good at what we do, and we do have a good team, and we do have what it takes to get to that where we want to be. So the motivation is, although we get battered and bruised and beaten up, we've proven that we're resilient. We've got the ability to do it, and we're I believe well foundation to get to where we want to go.
Nice. What was the other one? What was the top one?
Less pay. So we kind of chatted about that.
Good. Nice. So what was our first deal? I don't really need to show this, but I did write it anyway. So Seafield Court was our first deal, and I think there was a case study video that I did back in the day with Candor. I'll put it in the description below so people can go and watch it and get a proper understanding of what we did there. But it's always interesting to look back as to where businesses start, and it was a project in Reading, which was a semi-basement of a block of 6 flats, and we got planning approval to turn it into an additional 2 flats in that lower basement section. The quick figures, I think, were we bought it for 90 grand. We spent about
220, I think.
220-ish build costs, plus some finance costs, and we sold them both for about 590. 590, does that sound about right? 490 it would have been.
I thought it was about 500.
493 or something like that. So decent project to get us going. When we look back, when it was just Jack and I doing that, that profit coming into the business was probably the most sort of money we could have split between us over the last 6 years. But after then, it was all growth and building the team and troubles from there, really. But Seafield Court was our first deal. Anything you wanted to add on that? It was
actually the second deal that we secured, but the first deal that we were securing, which was Hyde End Road, took forever to buy because it was an administration sale.
Yeah. What was that was XP Properties first deal. What was your first property development?
It was probably Cromwell Road in Henley, where we bought 2 garages, built a 3-bedroom house, literally did everything. So I was on the tools. Super tight site. The width of the site was about 5.7 meters. And we built a 3-bedroom house on it, so super limited access and blah blah. In actual fact, when I was putting the fascia soffits and cutting the roof, I had to duck under the fascias and soffits around the scaffolding because we couldn't sell the scaffolding any further over the neighbouring site. So we did basically the whole roof by climbing from the scaffolding up onto the roof from the rear and then walking on it. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, so that was quite a fun deal. I think we bought the garages for I think it was just over 100 grand, 200k build costs, which were super light because there was 2 of us working as sweat equity, as it were, and then we sold the house for just under 600k. Nice. So huge margins. Yeah, I was there for the whole of the delivery of that one, but I wasn't really part of the acquisitions on that one. So my first real baby was Four Winds in Emma Green, which was
that was the
bungalow that we bought and all of that. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, nice. I was just because I did a presentation to the exec group yesterday, so I was just sort of talking through my first deal, which was this one. So I bought an end terrace 1-bed with a large garden plot. Got planning approval for a 2-bed house on the side of it, which is this visualization there. And then that's it built 4 months thereafter. And it, like you say, kind of, I think I was lulled in to a false sense of security with property development, making a 37% profit on GDV with the first development deal that I did. But I learned a lot. I was paying 1.5% a month on my finance on that, which looking back is eye-watering. But it was the only company that would actually deal with me
with a barge pole
that I found. Yeah, so it needs must, basically. Cool. What's our favorite thing about business? You got this one? Yeah, ready?
3, 2, 1.
Go for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Is that what you? So that's that driving forward in the team.
So it's 2 things: driving and the team. My favorite thing basically, this is a bit cliche, but I'm so unemployable because I always think I've got a better idea or a better way of doing it. So I just really like the fact that you can get up and go create something and not have any limitations apart from the market cost, risk, whatever it may be. But you can kind of twist and turn and try ideas and do this, do that, and if I want to focus a little bit more on this, or you want to focus a little bit more on that we have that full autonomy, and that is, I love the drive. Being in the, it's the same as being in a car. I'd much rather drive than be in a passenger seat, and that's just it, really. And then second to that is, I love the team that we've built around us. They're fundamental for daily sanity and the growth of our business, and we've grown a little family and a good little culture, and I think that's quite a key part of our business.
Yeah, nice. I mean, that's. I mean, I think I said it for the team being one of our. I can't remember what the answer was, but the team is so important, like I said earlier. But my favorite thing about business, and I've learned this over the last 7 years with Aura and the stuff that we've done with XP, but actually, I've grown away from necessarily like the property side of stuff. I still do enjoy it, and I love the seeing something from nothing be created into something that looks great, and taking something that looks rubbish and redeveloping it, and that transition and that process that you see. But what I've really loved the most out of all of our businesses, or at XP Surveys, XP Property, is the marketing side of things. And as a business owner, I think, you know, a good understanding of marketing, generating leads, generating opportunities, is fundamental. And I've really, really loved learning more about that process. And I don't claim to be, you know, awesome at it, but, you know, we've done a fairly good job, and I'm constantly learning, and I really enjoy learning about it. When, you know, my wife's lying in bed watching Made in Chelsea, I'm on YouTube watching SEO content, you know, how to be better at SEO content and how to create thumbnails and all this sort of stuff. And I've really enjoyed learning about that side of stuff. So
if mine were to be, because obviously we all split the businesses between sales, marketing, operations, finance, and team. I think if mine were to be a section like yours is, it would be sales.
Sales, yeah.
Still, yeah, just through and through.
Negotiating and
yeah, just love the chase.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, like that's been really good in XP Surveys for us, because you're looking at ways from a sales perspective. Like, we've now got a BDM on board, and I, to a certain degree, might have been a bit lazy on the sort of inquiry route, trying to use more like digital marketing understanding, and like, sat at my desk, what can we do to generate leads? Whereas you're like, get out on the ground, speak to people, pick up the phone, that more sales kind of approach. Where it's like there's push and pull marketing, isn't there? There's push, which is the sort of stuff that you do, where you're trying to get outreach, and then there's pull, which is that digital organic PPC, you know, trying to pull people into your business. And I think actually having both of those skill sets has been quite good. We're still obviously learning, but I feel like we're in a good place now where we've got a bit of both of that. Yeah, cool, good. How are we different 6 years down the line? This will be an interesting one. I've put more structured and more deliberate. And you've said
less naive, willing to say no, and wiser.
Got the grey hairs and the receding hairline to deal with it. Cool. Yeah. Go on, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, less naive. I think that, you know, all the time people, I speak to friends or even the wife about business ideas, and I'm so like unnaive to it. I'm like, no, that won't work. Straight away, I'm like, you need to do this, this, and this. Otherwise, it's not worth doing. And I feel that back 6-7 years ago, I was, you know, eager-eyed and small brained. I would, you know, be so excited about every opportunity and be willing to talk it through. But I'm now, you know, I literally say, I was chatting to someone the other day, I was like, that's a pointless business model unless you turn over 2 million. Do you want to do that? And they're like, and I was, and you know, it's for me, like the fluffiness is gone, the naivety is gone, but it was essential and fundamental to get us where we are. And there's still naiveties. I mean, Aparo is a clear point of that, and you're never unnaived completely, but less naive in the development and investment space. Willing to say no, similar to the sort of naivety I was running around, and you know, now I feel a little bit more structured around valuing what I'm worth and what my time's worth and what I actually want to be doing, and a lot more clear on that. And then last, wiser, not wise, but wiser. Because you're never allowed to self-proclaim yourself as wise, but we are wiser than where we were. I feel like we know our onions in developments, and I feel we've got a good reputation for that. And I think we'll continue to grow and learn and do things. And, you know, it's amazing the amount of people that reach out to us for advice. And, you know, that's something to be proud that we've built and learned, and unfortunately learned from our mistakes. I feel like my dad, one thing I noticed about my dad being a successful business owner, he's always pointed out people that have done it a lot more easier. You know, he always says, I made my millions with my hands and not my head. And I feel like you and I still do it with our hands. It feels like it's not an easy road. It's a hard road. But yeah, one day maybe we'll be able to do it with ease.
Yeah, I just don't think business is ever easy. I think people massively underestimate what they're getting themselves into, and this is what I tell a lot of architects that I speak to that want to start their own development businesses. Like, are you ready for those risks? Are you ready for those challenges? Because I think a lot of people from the outside watch Homes Under the Hammer and thinks everyone makes shitload of money from this property development gig, and it's really not like that. Yes, you can make a lot of money, but it's high risk, high reward. It's a lot of effort. A lot of things go wrong, and you have to be able to be resourceful, resilient, all those things we've spoken about. But my answer to that question, how we different 6 years down, I think we're way more structured in what we do. We've got systems and processes and a team in place, which is something that everyone should be doing from day one. I think I did this really well with Aura, actually, because I went traveling for 5 months at the start of Aura, and it gave me the headspace to think about the marketing routes that were going down, operational procedures, how I want the business to be run and look. And over, I guess, year 4 and 5, we actually started moving away from more of that structure and giving people a bit more autonomy, whereas now we're pulling it way more back to this is how we do things in Aura. This is how we structure things. This is how our documents look. This is how we operate. And I think a good business will have that structure. And XP is no different, really. And when I say deliberate, that goes back to some of the more strategic decisions that we've made in terms of making sure we are working on the right type of project, actually reverse engineering where we want to be and what sustains us and what we want to do in terms of profitability and growth. And then being more strategic and deliberate about how we do things, and actually not just going, I guess it comes down to naivety, instead of going face forward into something, we will take a step back and say, actually, is this right for us? How do we best do this? Is it something we want to deliver? Should we just say no, like you said? But yeah, being more deliberate, I think, is definitely something we have been wiser in learning. Cool. And then how do we meet, Jack?
Through a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to say the educational platform too much because I feel that people judge us.
Now you're allowed to say it.
Ben and I both joined I think we were in several different learning platforms and doing things to grow and learn and understand what we want from business. But one of them was Progressive Property, and we're both on the VIP program. We both had the same mentor who thought it would be a good idea. We met, so big shout out to Mark. And now we're here. So we're
nice, good.
Probably 8 years on, I would have thought, maybe, since that original introduction.
I think it is. I mean, I think I started doing Progressive just as I was finishing off at the Berkeley Group. So it would have been like early 2017, I think. So yeah, 7 years probably. But I think you are still down in my phone as Jack Jiggins, PPN Reading. So I clearly developer. So I think I met you at the place that your bag got nicked in Reading,
Maidenhead, yeah,
Holiday Inn or whatever it was, by the PPN Reading was. And yeah, that's what you went in my phone as. That's what you still are in my phone as. And that would have been probably 8 years ago now.
Yeah, crazy. There you go.
Nice. Good. Perfect. Well, I hope everyone's enjoyed that little, different special 6th birthday episode about the things we've learned and gained. If you have enjoyed it, please comment down below what you like the most. Please like and share with just one person if you've got value from this. We do want to push the podcast as far and wide as possible. We'd love a rate on Spotify and a review on Apple Podcasts, please. And until next time, have a good weekend and speak to you next week.
All I was going to say, if you feel like we've missed any questions off, ask them in the comment section and we'll come to them next week.
Yeah, good idea. Nice one. Cheers, everyone. Bye now.